In January 2024, Royal Caribbean launched the biggest cruise ship ever built, Icon of the Seas. It cost $2 billion, and it measured 248,663 gross tons. It has 20 decks, 7 pools, 6 water slides, and room for over 5,600 passengers. Lionel Messi even showed up to christen it. It was supposed to be the future of cruising. But 18 months later, the ship had survived a fire. A propulsion failure that canceled an entire sailing, a fatal crew stabbing, and a water slide that shattered while someone was still inside it. And it was not alone. The CDC recorded 20 gastrointestinal outbreaks on cruise ships in 2025, the worst year since they started tracking in 1994. So why, in the middle of all this, is luxury cruising growing 2.5 times faster than the rest of the industry? And why are brands like Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, and Orient Express suddenly building ships instead of hotels? That's what this video is about. And the answer might change how you think about cruise vacations forever. To understand how we got here, you need to see just how big this mega ship arms race has become. The cruise industry has been obsessed with scale for over a decade now. Every few years, someone builds the world's largest ship, and then someone else builds a bigger one. In 2016, it was Harmony of the Seas at 226,963 gross tons. 2 years later, Symphony of the Seas edged past it. Then, Wonder of the Seas appeared in 2022. Then Icon of the Seas blew them all away in January 2024, stretching 1,198 feet long. That is longer than 3.5 football fields. 6 months after Icon, Royal Caribbean launched Utopia of the Seas from Port Canaveral. It is a $1.35 billion ship built specifically for short weekend getaways, with over 5,600 passengers. Then, Star of the Seas entered service in August 2025, a near twin of Icon. Now Legend of the Seas is expected in July 2026 at over 250,800 gross tons, potentially the largest cruise ship the world has ever seen. Royal Caribbean is not the only company building. MSC launched World America in spring 2025 and has World Asia scheduled for December 2026, with over 6,700 passengers. Norwegian Aqua entered service in April 2025. In total, 15 new ocean-going ships are arriving in 2026 alone, representing $10.4 billion in investment and nearly 32,000 additional passenger berths. The overall numbers are staggering. Global cruise passengers hit 34.6 million in 2024, a new all-time record, and the industry projects 37.7 million for 2025, with nearly 40 million expected by 2026, according to the Cruise Lines International Association. The fleet now exceeds 310 ocean-going vessels, with over 650,000 lower berths. AAA projects 21.7 million Americans alone will cruise in 2026, making it the 4th consecutive record year. JP Morgan estimates the cruise industry will capture 3.8% of the $1.9 trillion global vacation market by 2028. Their head of leisure research said that not a single historical lead indicator in the business, notably booking curve and onboard spend, signals any softening. And cruising still represents only 2.7% of global international tourism, which means the industry sees enormous room to keep building. So the big ships keep getting bigger, the passenger numbers keep climbing, the investments keep flowing. On paper, this looks like an industry with zero ceiling. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because while these mega ships are getting bigger, the problems are getting bigger too. Let's talk about Icon of the Seas, the flagship, the crown jewel, the $2 billion pride of Royal Caribbean's fleet. In May 2024, a passenger jumped overboard and was later pronounced dead. On June 25, 2024, a fire broke out in a crew area while the ship was docked at Costa Maya, Mexico. The ship lost power briefly before backup generators kicked in. Royal Caribbean's response was that minor fires are, and this is a direct quote from their statement, not common but also not uncommon on ships this size. In September 2024, a propulsion failure forced Icon to sail at reduced speed, miss its scheduled port call in St. Thomas, and limp back to Miami for repairs. The entire next sailing was canceled, leaving thousands of passengers scrambling for alternatives. Then on July 25, 2025, a 35-year-old crew member allegedly stabbed a 28-year-old female colleague multiple times before jumping overboard to his death. And on August 7, 2025, an acrylic panel on the frightening Bolt waterslide shattered while a rider was inside, causing lacerations from their legs to their hands. It was the third glass-breaking incident on Royal Caribbean ships that summer alone. And the broader fleet was not doing much better. 2024 saw the worst year for gastrointestinal outbreaks on cruise ships in over a decade, with the CDC reporting roughly 17 outbreaks. But 2025 absolutely shattered that record. By October, 20 outbreaks had been documented, the most the CDC has ever recorded since tracking began in 1994, according to their vessel sanitation program. Queen Mary II saw 224 passengers and 17 crew sickened during a single transatlantic crossing in March 2025. Holland America's Eurodom hit a 7.26% passenger infection rate in April. And the man overboard numbers were genuinely alarming. 19 incidents in 2024 alone, with only 2 people rescued alive according to cruise safety advocacy groups. One lawsuit alleged that a passenger aboard Navigator of the Seas was served 33 drinks before being tackled by security. Another case involved a 66-year-old woman on a themed Royal Caribbean cruise who went overboard after crew allegedly continued serving her despite visible intoxication. Meanwhile, social media turned every incident into a viral moment. A pipe burst aboard Sky Princess in April 2025 caused flooding across 2 decks, while emergency systems malfunctioned and falsely announced a fire. TikTok footage racked up 8.6 million views. The Carnival Freedom Funnel fire of March 2024, its second fire in under 2 years, produced a now famous moment of a passenger filming the blaze asking why their tail was on fire. Cruise critic reviews of Icon described it as completely overcrowded, with impossible-to-relax conditions. But the megaships aren't just facing problems at sea. Port towns around the world are fighting back, and this might be the biggest story nobody's talking about. In April 2025, Grand Cayman held a referendum on whether to build $150 to $200 million of cruise berthing facilities. The result was decisive. Voters rejected it by 63.7% to 28.8%. Activists from CPR Cayman had warned the project would destroy over 22 acres of marine habitat, including coral reefs. It was the island's second rejection of cruise port expansion. As a direct result, Grand Cayman's cruise arrivals fell from 1.8 million in 2019 to under 750,000 in 2024. Over in France, Cannes voted in June 2025 to ban ships carrying over 1,000 passengers starting January 2026, with a daily visitor cap of 6,000. Nice went even further, banning ships with over 900 passengers from July 2025. Barcelona, Europe's largest cruise port, with 3.6 million passengers in 2023, signed a historic protocol to reduce cruise terminals from 7 to 5 and to cap growth. The mayor declared it the first time in history a limit had been placed on cruise ship growth in Barcelona. Ships must now plug into 100% renewable shore power by 2026. The Greek islands of Santorini and Mykonos imposed a €20 per person cruise fee for peak season, and Santorini enforced a daily cap of 8,000 passengers after peak days had brought 15,000 to 17,000 visitors to an island of just 15,500 residents. Venice maintained its 2021 ban on ships over 25,000 gross tons from the historic center, forcing Norwegian Cruise Line to drop Venice from its 2024 and 2025 itineraries entirely. Even in America, small towns are drawing the line. Bar Harbor, Maine, population 5,500, capped cruise passengers at 1,000 per day after a voter referendum that was upheld by a federal court in February 2024 and reaffirmed by voters that November. Juneau, Alaska, population 32,000, implemented daily caps of 16,000 weekday visitors and 12,000 on Saturdays starting in 2026, after peak days had seen 21,000 cruise visitors outnumbering the entire local population. And it's not just regulations. In February 2025, residents of Costa Maya, Mexico, physically blocked the entrance to their cruise port while 3 ships were visiting, demanding that Royal Caribbean deliver on promises to improve local roads and public services. Extinction Rebellion activists blocked Amsterdam's locks in August 2024, forcing a Royal Caribbean ship to disembark passengers 25 miles from the city. Amsterdam now plans to limit cruise ships to 100 per year by 2026, down from 190, with a full ban by 2035. And the environmental case against megaships just keeps getting worse. These ships are enormous consumers of fuel. A large cruise ship burns through 150 to 250 tons of fuel every single day. To put that in perspective, a megaship generates approximately 210,000 gallons of sewage per week, 1 million gallons of gray water, 8 tons of solid waste, and 25,000 gallons of oily bilge water. The cruise industry produces 24% of all solid waste from maritime traffic, despite representing just 1% of the global fleet. A single cruise passenger generates roughly 250 grams of carbon dioxide per passenger kilometer, which is approximately 3 times more than flying the same distance, according to research published in the journal Marine Policy. The daily emissions per passenger average 421 kilograms of carbon dioxide, roughly 8 times more than a land-based vacation. A single medium-sized cruise ship emits greenhouse gases equivalent to about 12,000 cars. Carnival Corporation alone produces 9.5 million tons of carbon dioxide annually, which exceeds the total emissions of the entire city of Glasgow. But here's where it gets really interesting. The cruise industry's main defense has been switching to liquefied natural gas, called LNG, which they have marketed as the clean fuel of the future. And on paper, LNG does reduce direct carbon dioxide by 15 to 25%. The problem is methane slip. Liquefied natural gas is primarily methane, and methane is 80 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. When these engines run, unburned methane escapes through exhaust systems. The International Council on Clean Transportation found that the dual-fuel engines used by most liquefied natural gas cruise ships actually emit 70% more life-cycle greenhouse gases than marine gas oil, and 82% more than standard diesel engines. Real-world measurements from the Fumes Research Project found methane slip averaging 6.4% of fuel use, roughly double the official European Union and International Maritime Organization assumptions of 3.1 to 3.5%. The International Council on Clean Transportation concluded that cruise companies should stop ordering liquefied natural gas-powered ships altogether. The Dutch Advertising Board ruled that MSC Cruises' claims that liquefied natural gas was sustainable were untrue and misleading. New regulations are tightening fast. The European Union emissions trading system now includes shipping as of 2024. Norway plans to restrict cruise traffic in UNESCO fjords to ships using alternative fuels by 2026. And the International Maritime Organization is developing carbon pricing of $100 to $380 per ton of carbon dioxide, potentially by 2028. If you're finding this fascinating, hit subscribe. We cover cruise industry deep dives and travel content every week. Now let's talk about the other side of this story. Because while megaships are dealing with outbreaks, port bans, and environmental scandals, the luxury cruise market is absolutely booming. The luxury cruise fleet has more than tripled since 2010, growing from 28 ships to over 104 today according to industry tracking data, and is projected to reach at least 130 vessels by 2036. The market is valued at $10.2 billion in 2025 and expected to reach $23 billion by 2032, growing at a compound annual rate of 12.3%. That's roughly 2.5 times faster than the overall cruise industry. But what really tells the story of 2026 is who is entering the market. 5-star hotel brands that have spent decades perfecting hospitality on land are now building ships. And these are not half-hearted vanity projects. These are serious investments from names that have everything to lose if they get it wrong. Four Seasons. I launches in March 2026 with just 95 suites for 190 guests. It features 11 restaurants, a transverse marina that opens both sides of the vessel to the sea, and a 9,975 square foot funnel suite that sits inside the ship's iconic smokestack. Captain Kate McHugh, formerly of Celebrity Cruises and one of the most recognized captains in the industry, commands the ship. Four Seasons is investing 1.2 billion euros across a 3-ship program. Then in June 2026, Orient Express launches the Corinthian. And this one is wild. It is the world's largest sailing yacht at 722 feet with 3 towering masts, carrying only 54 suites and 110 guests with 170 crew members. That's a crew-to-guest ratio of 0.64 to 1, meaning there are significantly more crew than passengers. Michelin-starred chef Yannick Aleno oversees 5 restaurants. The ship features a 1930s speakeasy, a Parisian cabaret lounge, a Guerlain spa, and wind propulsion technology called solid sail that actually uses those massive sails for power. In December 2026, Regent Seven Seas launches the Prestige, their first Prestige-class ship at 77,000 gross tons and 850 passengers. When reservations opened on June 25, 2025, Regent recorded their biggest single booking day in company history, beating the previous record by 26%. The Skyview Regent Suite, which spans 8,794 square feet across 2 stories, is priced at $25,000 per night, and it sold out on 6 of 13 inaugural sailings on opening day. And then there is Viking Libra, arriving late 2026 as the world's first hydrogen-powered cruise ship, using liquid hydrogen fuel cells for zero emissions capability in Norwegian fjords. Viking has grown from a single ocean ship in 2015 to over 16 by 2028, with 70% of 2026 inventory already sold according to their most recent earnings disclosures. The Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection now operates 3 super yachts carrying 298 to 452 guests each, with nearly 1 crew member for every guest. And here is a stat that should make every mass-market cruise executive nervous. Roughly 50% of Ritz-Carlton yacht guests have never cruised before. They are not stealing customers from Carnival or Royal Caribbean. They are creating entirely new cruisers from their hotel loyalty base. Looking further ahead, Aman at Sea plans to launch the Aman in spring 2027 with just 47 suites for 94 guests, 2 helipads, and the largest spa in luxury yachting. The price is about $38,500 per suite for a 5-night journey, working out to roughly $7,700 per night. The ship itself costs an estimated $700 million to build. So what exactly are these luxury passengers getting that megaship passengers are not? The experience gap is massive, and it shows up in every measurable category. Start with the staff. On mass-market ships, the average passenger-to-crew ratio runs about 2.5 to 1. Carnival averages 2.54 to 1. Royal Caribbean sits at 2.63 to 1. Liberty of the Seas, the worst in the fleet, hits 2.92 passengers per crew member. On luxury ships, it is a completely different reality. Regent, Seabourn, and Silversea all maintain approximately 1 crew member per guest. Ritz-Carlton operates at nearly 1 to 1. Orient Express achieves 0.64 to 1. On these ships, staff recognize guests by name, remember dietary preferences, and anticipate what you need before you ask. An analysis of more than 130,000 reviews on cruiseline.com found a clear trend of smaller ships receiving consistently higher service ratings. Then there is the space itself. The average mass-market inside cabin measures 167 square feet. A balcony cabin averages 197 square feet. On luxury lines, the entry-level suite starts at 246 to 300 square feet, and every single one is ocean view, with 88 to 100% featuring private balconies. Your smallest room on a luxury ship is larger than most balcony cabins on a megaship. Dining is where luxury really separates itself. On luxury ships, you are eating Michelin-caliber cuisine as part of your fare. Thomas Keller creations on Seabourn. Yannick Aleno menus on Orient Express. Destination-inspired culinary programs like Silversea's SALT initiative. All included, no reservation fees, no upcharges. On mass-market ships, the main dining room is included, but specialty restaurants charge $23 to over $200 per person per meal, with an 18% automatic gratuity on top. Now here is the part that surprises everyone. When you actually do the math on pricing, the gap between megaship and luxury is not what you think. A mass-market cruise advertised at $100 per person per night seems like a steal, but on a typical 7-night cruise for 2 people, the add-ons stack up fast. Gratuities run $260 to $350. Drink packages cost $1,050 to $1,260. Wi-Fi for 2 devices is $266 to $357. 3 specialty dining experiences add $150 to $400. 4 shore excursions run $600 to $1,200. Plus photos, spa, and other extras at $200 to $500. That adds up to roughly $2,500 to $4,000 in extras on top of your base fare. Your $100 per night cruise just became $350 to $500 per person per night. A luxury cruise at $400 to $900 per person per night includes everything. All dining at every restaurant. All beverages, including premium wines and spirits and champagne. All shore excursions, Wi-Fi, gratuities. And many luxury lines even include round-trip airfare and airport transfers. As one industry analyst put it, it is not what you pay to get on a ship, it is what you pay to get off. But the advantage luxury lines hold that mega ships can never match is where they can actually go. In Antarctica, only 100 people are allowed on land at any one time, and ships carrying more than 500 passengers cannot make landings at all. Mega ships are physically excluded from one of the most extraordinary destinations on Earth. The Galapagos Islands strictly regulate vessel size, limiting ships to 16 to 100 passengers. Silversea's Silver Origin carries exactly 100. Small luxury expedition ships access fjords in Norway, Arctic passages, the Kimberley coast of Australia, and remote Pacific islands that megaships cannot physically enter because of depth, width, or environmental restrictions. Luxury lines like Regent visit over 550 ports worldwide, including destinations far too small for any megaship. Seabourn's expedition ships carry Zodiac inflatable boats for direct shore landings on remote beaches. Scenic's luxury yachts feature onboard submarines and helicopters for exploring places no cruise ship has gone before. And here's the demographic twist that's accelerating all of this. The stereotype of luxury cruising as something for retirees? It's completely outdated. The average cruise passenger is now 46.5 years old, down from 65 in the 1970s. 36% of all cruisers today are under 40. Millennials represent 22%, and Gen Z accounts for 14%. In a 2025 survey by Arivia, 36% of millennials said they plan to cruise in the next 2 years, the highest of any generation. Royal Caribbean reports that 1 in 2 of its customers is now millennial or younger. The luxury segment is riding this wave through hotel brand recognition. Four Seasons Yachts specifically targets 35 to 65-year-olds, concentrated in the 45 to 55 range. Pinterest searches for luxury cruise are up 95% among 18 to 24-year-olds. Solo cruising has doubled, jumping from 6% in 2023 to 12% in 2024, with younger travelers leading that trend. 28% of cruise travelers now sail with 3 to 5 generations of family, driving demand for multi-generational luxury experiences. And first-time cruisers overall rose to 31% of passengers in 2024, up from 24% in 2019. Think about what that means for a second. Nearly 1 in 3 people on a cruise ship in 2024 had never cruised before. And luxury hotel brands entering the market are expanding the total pool by converting people who would never have considered stepping onto a traditional cruise ship. Ritz-Carlton's 50% conversion rate from non-cruisers isn't stealing customers from anyone. It's creating an entirely new audience. The industry data confirms what the anecdotes suggest. The 2026 Consumer Reports survey of nearly 19,000 members found that only 3 cruise lines scored high enough for their recommendation: Viking, Windstar, and National Geographic Lindblad, all smaller premium or luxury operators. Mass market lines fell below the recommendation threshold. On Cruise Critic, Viking leads with a 4 out of 5 rating, while Royal Caribbean, the mass market leader, scores 3.2. MSC consistently draws the worst ratings. Regent's January 2026 was the strongest booking month in the company's history, with global bookings up 20% over January 2025. Their annual world cruise, starting at $86,999 per person and going up to $249,999, has sold out before official bookings even opened for 4 consecutive years. The Virtuoso 2026 Lux Report, based on surveys of 2,485 luxury travel advisors across over 50 countries, found that 52% say cruise holidays are experiencing higher growth than any other travel segment. McKinsey data shows luxury travelers' share of spending on experiences rose from 34% in 2019 to 46% in 2023. A structural shift that favors experiential products like luxury cruising over material purchases. So where does this leave us? The cruise industry isn't one industry anymore. It's two completely different products sailing in opposite directions. On one side, megaships keep getting bigger, adding water slides, go-karts, and surf simulators to attract the mass market. And it's working by the raw numbers, with nearly 40 million passengers expected next year. But the problems are compounding. Record disease outbreaks, a growing list of port bans from Barcelona to Juneau to Grand Cayman. Environmental criticism backed by peer-reviewed science showing that LNG fuel is actually worse for the climate than the diesel it replaced. And a social media environment where every fire, every flooding, and every man overboard incident goes instantly viral. On the other side, luxury lines are growing 2.5 times faster, attracting 5-star hotel brands that are converting people who would never have boarded a megaship into first-time cruisers. They are achieving near-perfect satisfaction scores, accessing destinations that megaships will never reach, and closing the price gap to near parity once you add up what mass-market passengers actually spend. The most telling numbers might be these. Regent's $25,000 per night suite sold out on opening day. In the same industry, in the same year, 19 people went overboard from megaships and only 2 survived. The CDC recorded its worst outbreak year in 3 decades, and port after port voted to limit or ban the largest ships entirely. As the cruise industry's own magazine Cruise Collective put it when summarizing the 2026 outlook, not everyone wants a water park and a zip line. Some would rather have a good library, a serious wine list, and the ability to dock somewhere tiny and interesting. If this changed how you think about cruising, you'll want to see our deep dive into the most exclusive cruise destinations you've never heard of. That video is on screen now. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.